Ron, welcome to the Actualized Leaders Talk. How are you feeling today?
Hi, Shimpy, and so great. Thank you so much for having me here today. To discuss further about maybe my live experience, my work experience, how I live here in Hong Kong from Manila after university. Thanks for having me here, and I'm so excited to share and to collaborate, in our discussion today.
Thank you, Ron, for being here. We are privileged to have you here. So, Ron, would you like to perhaps start with a little bit of your journey and maybe add to what I have already shared?
Yes. Yeah, I was born here in Hong Kong, actually, but I didn't really grow up in Hong Kong. My parents sent me back to the Philippines in Manila to, just basically to finish my school. And actually I asked them in terms of, oh, why you sent me back to Manila, but you and dad is actually working here in Hong Kong. And they're like, oh, because we want you to experience the culture, living in our country. And yeah, to make the story short, so after university, I decided to moved to Hong Kong permanently to work here, basically. And I've been here for 15 years now. It's a roller coaster ride journey, I would say. Why is it roller coaster? Because it's fun. It's excitement. There's a lot of excitement in my journey. And of course, there's ups and downs, basically. And my parents is actually here in Hong Kong with me at the same time. I've been working in a different industry, so in sales and marketing, hospitality, banking and finance, trading, and at the same time, nonprofit organization that I've been involved. And I build friends in Hong Kong at the same time. But of course, I still miss back home. Definitely, I always visit my country a few times in a year. And that I would say that's a very good journey for me. Um, Hong Kong made me a better person in different aspect in life. It can be on how to be stronger, how to be confident. It teach me how to communicate with different people, how to build that kind of confidence that I'm making sure that I can use that not only at work but at the same time in my daily life. Hong Kong built me the kind of personality that I have right now. So yeah, that's really much about me, basically.
Mhm. Thank you for sharing that, Ron. And are you able to hear me right now?
Yes.
Okay. So, you have a very unique experience. You were born in Hong Kong, but your origin is in Philippines, and you have worked in Hong Kong for more than 15 years. How has the culture really shaped your working experience, Ron, in your role?
When I moved to Hong Kong, even though I'm always in Hong Kong every summer because I need to visit my family every summer vacation. So when I moved to Hong Kong after uni, I was like, Hong Kong is fine. I'm always there. I always visit. I always have vacation. But it's actually I realized that Hong Kong is different. In a way, I have a kind of culture shock, especially when I started to work because Hong Kong is a very fast-paced environment. Hong Kong is very competitive. Um, Positively, I'll say that in a way we work a little bit longer hours because of how competitive the market is, and we need to be competitive as well as a part of the organization and this part of learning. Um, when I moved to Hong Kong, I don't really speak Cantonese at all. And that's one thing I was like, how should I communicate with people? Especially in Hong Kong, even though it's an international market, if you want to get a good job, you need to speak the language, right? Especially on which industry or what kind of role you are applying for. So when I started to apply in the role that I have in my first career, my first role is sales and marketing. So I'm actually pretty happy because without speaking the local language, I'm able to get that position. Um, and I was like, it's really challenging in a way because um, it's actually my first job. I never had a full-time job in my country, Philippines. So it's imagine the culture, my first time. I feel so nervous during the time. I really don't know what to do. And in my first job, I'm actually doubting myself. Can I really do this job? Um, because seems like there's no one really supporting me because I don't have much friends during that time. All of my friends is back home, back in Manila. I only have my mom and my dad, but my mom and my dad also work in a different industry, right? And the style of working is different already. So just really need to push myself. There's a lot of failure during the time, the nervousness, the self doubt, overcoming self doubt. It's during that time. That's something that I always think about every single day. I normally step into the office, but I always try to remember that okay, it's a first job. Let me have that kind of working experience and learn from it. Then when I moved to other organization, I'm very lucky that the organization it's very open. When I say open, it means they provide training to people. They value the skills of people. Skills is very important on where how I manage to improve my communication skill, how I handle rejections. I'm able to meet new friends on the organization. For that almost 8 years I worked with a company, it really molds me on who I am right now. And I always think back on what I've learned during that time within the organization. And most importantly is the time that I have a trainer, I would say a mentor who will trust me. I'm very lucky to have that because I believe, especially if you're new in the country or maybe you're new in the organization, it's good to have a mentor who will support you throughout to give you guidance, right? No matter other people may not trust you, but your leader or your mentor will definitely trust you, and it builds your confidence. It boosts your confidence. So I'm very lucky to have that mentor and my leader as well. And I believe that's one of the reason why I stayed at the company for almost 8 years because of the leader that I am reporting to, who really gave me the opportunity, guiding me to leave the path. And I will not forget those learnings, those memories, those moments because of that, right now, when I manage people, I really give my best, right? I will act as a mentor, not only a leader, because I know how it feels to have a guidance from your mentor when you're working with your organization. So I would say in terms of culture, in terms of the language, it's a very fast-paced environment. But when you surround with yourself with people who will lead you and guide you and support you, then it makes your basically your daily life at work easier.
Hmm. Thank you. And I love your journey, the way you have mentioned that, it shaped who Ron is today, the initial 8 years, despite the hardest, despite that period being the hardest, the toughest. And you mentioned the language being the biggest challenge. What are some strategies, Ron, for some of the expat leaders who are moving countries? What are some initial strategies to overcome these beginners' challenge?
What I have done actually that also helped me is I learned the language. I may not be 100, I'm not fluent, but at least I learned some language. It's for me to have a basic communication. So I push myself like, okay, I need to learn something because I will be living here for quite some time. I don't want to be like here and then saying that I'm just a foreigner, that kind, but I want to be here. Maybe I don't look like one living there, but the practice, maybe the language, I can easily communicate with them basically. So that's one. I think pushing yourself to learn the local language is very important. I'm not fluent. When I go, let's say, to a local restaurant, I can order my food. I can order which drink I like. I can ask how much I need to pay. That kind of basic conversation is very important because you're living there, right? You really need to understand that because I feel, especially right when you're in back home, and then maybe if you meet some foreigner or maybe some friends or maybe works our colleague, right? You normally tell them some language. Oh, you need to learn this language because you're gonna be working here. So I feel like I should do the same thing, right? So it's easy. That's my bridge. The language is my bridge to really communicate with them. That I'm trying to understand basically Hong Kong. I'm trying to understand to be Hong Kong person, basically, right? So language is very important. Number two is I need to have this kind of open network, right? If I need to meet a lot of people, be it, you need to expose yourself and to do a lot of network. What also works for me is I join, let's say, meetup activities like from other people. It can be through sports. So what I did is like I joined a meetup group called on volleyball, and of course people come and go, right? But the most important is you learn from the conversation that you will have every time you're meeting new people. And some of the people I met long time, like 10 years ago, they're actually my connection now. You build that kind of connection. It may not be personally, but it can be professionally. So I think that's very helpful to me. So learning the language, that's one. And second is building the network. And that 1 year actually become 15 years now. So I would say in Hong Kong as well is kind of westernized in a way. It's not a very Asian culture. It's a mix of culture. Imagine that when you come to a country on where they don't have just one culture, but they have different culture that I also need to understand. So that's that. But in short, because of I think I really pushed myself. I just gave it a try. And seems like if you don't know how to swim, you just really need to push to swim, right? You need to learn how to go to the pool. You need to learn what's the height of the water, right? So you need to know how to float. That's what I've learned in my first year. I just really need to try. I need to find some ways. 15 years ago, there's no chat GPT that you can type on how to make things easier, or to give you some answers. It's really more about pushing beyond your limitation and to really be open with something. So that's basically the culture shock that, when I moved to Hong Kong, I thought it's easy. I thought it's no, I just kind of it's the same. Maybe it's kind of same with USA, or maybe from different markets, but it's actually different. That's what I love about Hong Kong, the variety, the diversity, the city, that I actually learned as well, um, throughout these past years.
Your story reminds me of my opposite experience, which is moving from very fast-paced culture to somewhere a bit slow. And that was equally shocking for me when I moved to Slovakia. So for me, it took some time to slow down and get into the pace of local culture. So I can completely understand that adjusting your pace can be very difficult, whether it's moving from slow to fast space or fast to slow space.
We tend to compare now, right? Like for example, when I go back to my country, let's say when I order some food, I would feel like, why is so slow? Or maybe when you go to an offices on where you need to pay bills or you need to process a visa or whatever, you find it, why is it so slow? In Hong Kong, it's not like that. Sometimes we tend to compare because you've been living to that particular country for quite some time.
Mhm.
But I always need to remind myself, it's always like this. It's always I just really need to be we need to switch our mindset in every situation that we are actually
Yeah.
at the moment.
Speaking of switch, how does that has shaped your leadership style now that you have grown into a manager role? How do you think the whole transition has shaped your leadership style?
Um, Throughout my journey, of course, right, um, you will encounter different types of leaders, right, in your organization. You will encounter different types of colleague, right? Um, so I've learned basically throughout that journey, I always admire my leaders who really take good care of me, who really help me, who really support me, who really guide me. And I still remember on those times on how they really supported me, on how they guide me and everything. And in terms of leadership, I always put myself to my team members' shoes, right? That's one thing because we all been there. We all been to the times when where we don't know things. We all been there on the times that we are a part of the team, that we are not managing a group of people. We all been there. We all been there that we don't know how to lead a team, right? Um, I would say that how I like to be treated, how I like to be managed by my leaders. That is the way I will lead basically my team member.
Mhm.
So if you're gonna ask me, my leadership style is really about thinking about my team. Because I feel like if we need to be successful as a leader, our team member needs to be successful. So that kind of switch, like as a leader, we're not thinking about ourselves, to be honest, but we're thinking about them. How can we improve them? Because for me, as a leader, I will become successful if my team is successful.
Mhm.
I will achieve something good or even better if my team achieving their goals as well.
Yeah.
And it's always about your experience before. How does it feel? Because you can relate to them because you've been there. So I always think about that kind of moment, that my team will face challenges. Well, my team will feel this way, but how did you overcome that? How your leader helped you through those times, and that's the way I need to support my team members. So that kind of switch, right? Especially before when I manage my team, I manage people which is from Hong Kong, not from the Philippines. So imagine the culture, their style, the way they want to be approached, the way that you need to communicate with them. Every people is so different. And imagine I need to speak English to speak with them. That's another way as well. So um, you really need to build that kind of relationship throughout with your team. So the kind of switch that I basically learned throughout. So switch of putting myself to other people's shoe is very important. Until now, that actually works for me. When I communicate with my team, when I manage the project or I manage my team. So that kind of switch.
Mhm. Mhm. And it also seems like a cascading effect that you experience. The support that you have received in the beginning is something that you are cascading now to your team by putting yourself in their shoes. Uh, Ron, you have mentioned a lot of work towards allyship and diversity and belonging. Um, how does that journey relates to this transition?
Mhm. I'm smiling because I remember those time on where I managed a group of 15 people, and that 15 people is from different markets. So we have people from China, from Hong Kong, from the Philippines, even from Nepal, and we're working as a team. And then English is not our first language. Basically, all of us, English is not our first language. So imagine in terms of how should I speak with them, how we should have our um, team meeting. So, but I would say having a very diverse team, it it really plays a part because imagine the way they think about solution or the approach that they would like to have is totally different, but actually works because everyone has have a different suggestion, but it actually works. So that's why having a diverse team is very helpful because you are learning from different aspects of life. That's why it's good to have a very diverse team. But having a diverse team, it doesn't mean that you have this inclusivity. It's different, right? You have a diverse team, but making them inclusive have to think about they have a safe place, they can be authentic to themselves. They can be open to feedback. You can give suggestion. It's a different thing. So that is about inclusivity. So inclusivity is I always believe it starts from us. It starts from you, right? Because if you're not, let's say, if you don't value feedback, if you're not asking for suggestion from other people, your team cannot see that inclusivity is very important. That we need to ask feedback. We need to be open for suggestion. But so it always starts from us, right? And because of you feel safe with the environment, you feel belong to the environment. So that's why being diverse, being inclusive, right, is very important to have that kind of feeling of belonging, right? Because if you feel belong as well, it creates the equality for people, right? No matter which background you belong, no matter which race, no matter which culture you're from, from market, which language you speak. Are you part of the LGBTQ plus? Are you a person with, let's say, with a disability? It also intersectionality,
Mhm.
right, among the group. So it's very important when we are leading and managing a team, because especially, right, when you move to other organization, you're also going to be meeting different people again. You're going to be managing different people, but because you have the experience on working with diversity, it's actually easier, even though we work for the new group of people, because you have an experience on working with different people already. So it's a good point, to be exposed with diverse people when you started working.
And I love the point that you mentioned, the psychological safety that is that's needed to be created by leaders to accommodate different perspectives from diverse viewpoints and so on. One of the things that I often try to understand is cultural fit versus cultural alignment. So when we have people from different culture, often in organization we expect a cultural fit, and I think that goes kind of in a little diametrically opposite to the idea that people are actually from different culture. So bringing them to fit into one culture is kind of like opposite to the whole idea of diversity. So how do you see this, the cultural fit versus how do we align the people to the culture?
That's a very, very good question, Shimpy. I believe when you ask different people on that particular question, they will have different answers on this particular situation. I feel that in an organization, personally, they have their own set of, let's say, policies. They have a certain rules, right? They have certain ways or approaches within the organization. Um, it's just a matter of how they can be flexible bit by bit. In a reality, of course, we cannot really please everyone. What I'm trying to say is that maybe your policy may not fit to everyone. Maybe your rules cannot fit to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, there's nothing wrong with that because in our organization, they have limitation. It can be on which industry, right? They are actually from because each of industry also differs. It depends on, it can be a male dominated type of industry on where the history environment compared to a female dominated industry, as an example. So some of the organization, I believe they're doing something to make sure it involves everyone. But like I mentioned to you, there's always limitation. So
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there's always two hands to clap. One is for the organization, one is for the staff, right? For the staff, of course, like I've been working in an organization. We also need to understand what the organization can really offer to us,
Mm-hmm.
and then from us, how can we work towards that, right? For example, if the organization can really give us circle but not square, but we like square, but how we can meet halfway for you, what works for you. So it also plays a part. Like let's say if you think, oh, people here in this organization, let's say they're not very cooperative because that's how the culture is in the organization. But this actually starts from you. You can start being cooperative, right? And then maybe you try to ask questions to be for them to cooperate as well with you. In a way, we also plays a part how we could influence other people indirectly, right? So we can have the um, same goal, or how we could have that kind of environment that we would like to have in the organization. So it's always two hands to clap. So organization plays a part,
Mm-hmm.
the people in the organization also plays a part. Like for example, the organization, their goal is to have a safe space environment for everyone. But the people there are not like that, right? So it means organization also need to provide training or awareness to people. Okay, this is psychological safety. This is what we would like to have, psychological safety. But what is psychological safety? How we could able to have psychological safety? Why is it matters to have psychological safety? So organization needs to play a part to to educate people, but people also need to be educated, open for education, so at least they understand what they need to do, what are the do's, what are the don'ts, right? So it's always two hands to clap, when you ask me this question basically.
Mm-hmm. That makes a lot of sense, Ron. That there's on one hand there's an organizational culture, but there's also an agency for the employees to kind of impact that and create influence and create space for the need, because that's what the unique thing that the diversity brings to the organization. So thank
Right.
you. At this point, I want to bring the concept of anti-fragility and how how that shapes leaders, not just help them survive but help them become stronger. In the context of this global leadership, how do you think anti-fragility shape leadership, and especially for expat leaders? How do you think the situation really kind of makes them stronger, and because of their adaptive style, how does it shape their leadership?
That's a very good question, when we're talking about anti-fragility, right? um, Especially for us, who are expat, right? um, we are the person that we are a group of people that we follow rules, that we need to be flexible with rules, right? um, and sometimes there are moments that okay, we need to break it to make it, that kind of attitude. But this anti-fragility concept might be different the way I understand it, because for me, um, for us to be stronger, for us to be how to say that, for us to be stronger, for us to really be confident and to have that kind of um, that we are sticking to what we would like to achieve or what we would like to have, we need to be broken first. What I'm trying to say is we need to learn lessons, right? We need to, let's say, experience failures, learn from that experience. Because I always believe that if we learn from our experience, and maybe it will happen, if that will happen to us in the future, we know how to overcome it, right? And then because of that, we are stronger. Um, we are not fragile for that particular moment. So, but for me, experiencing maybe the down side of things, it really makes you a stronger person. So mine is kind of opposite. So it's really more on experiencing the down, experiencing the failure, experiencing those challenges, and for you to become a stronger person, and for you to able to handle even complex situation in the future.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, and I'm totally on that. That the downside that you talk about, it actually makes you stronger, and that's what not being fragile is all about. It's about being anti-fragile. Thank you for sharing that. So how can leader, build this capability, Ron, of becoming more anti-fragile?
I would say it's everyone have a different journey. I'll say that. But I would say is whenever you're experiencing this kind of not a very good situation, let's put on that way, maybe a bit negative type of situation during that time, see it more as a learning opportunity for you. So it means that we need to switch now to what's currently happening. If this is, let's say, a negative situation, thinking about if you overcome that, what will actually help you? How this situation mold you to become a better person or to how to call it to manage this particular situation in the future. So I would say that's one thing. It's very important to think about the positivity on a particular situation. Second one, it's I would say is really be open um, with with feedback or really open with different type of feedback from people because if you want to be this kind of anti-fragility is you need to learn from different people as well. It's not a one man journey, right? You need to surround with people who can really bring you and to mold you to become a better person or to become a stronger person. So I think you need to bring along people with you throughout your journey. That's why I mentioned about being open. Number three that I firmly believe is one of the most important is we call it alternative, right? I always believe that there's always letter B, letter C, letter D option or plan for you. If doesn't work, we still have letter H and letter I. So for me, it's what are your alternative, right? There's A to Z alphabets.
Yeah.
So which one works for you? So I think the flexibility to understand which one works for you and that's something that you need to use, right? That you need to move forward with the plan. So I always think about alternative. That's very, very important. That really molds you to become anti-fragile. So I think that actually works for me as well. And I'm still learning, to be honest, on that particular process. We all learn, right? But the most important is even though it's really far or for the things that you would like to achieve, but you're getting there. I think that's the most important because you have your steps that you've taken already.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I absolutely agree when you say that, taking failure as an opportunity to learn. And I think coaching also kind of um come along the same line that, what about the possibilities? What are the alternatives? What are the possibilities, other possibilities that might exist? Um, Thank you for sharing that. Do you, as we are closing to the end of the session, do you have some tips for expat leaders or some recommendation or some last moment, message for the leaders who, move to different culture and country to lead other people? Any message for them you'd like to give away?
Um, when you mentioned that, Shimpy, the first thing comes to my mind is actually just we just really need to keep learning, right? No matter what type of courses will be that or learning that you would like to have, I just really need to keep learning, right? Um, I didn't, I never thought about that I become a trainer. I never thought about that I become a coach, right? So we just really need to keep learning because you can never know, right? Some people maybe they studied, let's say, engineer during their university, but they're doing something else right now, right?
Absolutely.
So it's right. So it will not define you what you've studied before. What will define you is what are you currently doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
And what will also define you is what kind of learning that you would like to have, right? What kind of learning is that? So keep learning is very important. I would say that. Number two, would also help. It will be keep trying. You know, I always believe that if you failed 7 times, you can get up 8 times. So I always need to be keep trying. Um, Third is about it really works. I would say self talk. It can be self talk being negative for you to release some of your negative thoughts. Self talk can be positive as well, right? How you encourage yourself, how to have this kind of self motivation. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's very very important. Last but not the least, who are the people matters to you, who are the people that you're gonna bringing on your side, in your front, in your back. It really helps apart. I always believe that it's the journey is not only by yourself. You need someone, right, to support you, someone that you can talk to, someone that you can just ask a question, right? So that's why it's very important for us to surround by good people throughout your journey. So those are the four tips that I can share.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much, Ron. I think that's a completely very broad perspective on being resilient and always be open to learning and having the support of the community and the network. So thank you once again, Ron, for your time today. And I wish you all the best for your continuous journey forward.
Thank you so much, Shimpy, for to have this kind of to give this kind of opportunity for me to share. Looking forward for more conversation with you and for the rest of the people. So hopefully, this is just a start of the conversation, and there's a lot more. And for those people who can relate on this kind of topic, so just keep moving forward. There's always path for everyone. There's always path for you. So just keep looking forward, moving forward, and I'm sure you will have a bright, basically, future coming from on your way.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Perfect. So